Hey everybody, my name's Drake Pledger, and tonight we're actually going to be talking about outdoor gear, camping gear, and stuff that you might want to have in your pack if you intend to go out in the woods. All right, so first let's clear a few things up. I've seen a lot of comments about what gear to take around in the woods on this page and on several other pages, and it seems like that this subject is maybe lacking in some of these groups. And I'm not trying to bash on anybody. And I also don't want to make myself to look like the complete expert, but I do have camping experience, backpacking, hiking, a lot of primitive stuff, 18th century technology. So a lot of that really taught me how to do a lot with a little, and utilizing modern technology really makes it a whole lot easier. All right, so the first thing that we're going to want to consider is weight and bulk. And first of all, let me just tell you right off the bat, if you want to know how to pack a pack, go watch Darwin on the Trail. Go watch some of the ultralight backpacking guys. They're going to be able to show you and tell you way better than I will about how to pack a pack lightweight and low bulk. And as well, they're actually going to have the best gear recommendations, and they're going to be able to tell you what the best gear to use is and how to use it. Now, let's get into the gear that I have and some of my mentality. I come from a bushcrafting background, so that means what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to carry around more tools. I'm going to want to carry around things that are going to enable me to be able to make things out of the woods. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But when it comes to situations to where we're hiking in with rifles, with pistols, with weapons, or let's say a bug out scenario or a recce type scenario, what you're going to want to do is that you're going to want to have stuff that is low bulk as possible. And when you get to camp, you don't want there to be hardly any setup time. Oh, let me also tell you, I do not have any military experience. So anything that I say is going to be coming from a camping standpoint. So if you're looking for purely military recommendations, I'm not going to be the one to give you those answers. Obviously, Grand Thumb does have a fantastic video on recce pack. Of course, so I was saying I come from a bushcraft background. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to carry a lot of stuff. I'm going to want to carry stainless steel water bottles. I'm going to want to carry around big rolls of cordage and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We also want to consider what the multifunctional use of these items are. So if we do have to be out for an extended time period, we want our items to be as durable and robust, and multi-purpose as possible. Let me just tell you all the things I've done in this. I have made charred material, I have boiled water, made food in it, and obviously it serves as a very strong water bottle. A lot of these dents come from, well, dropping it. I dropped this bottle off of a cliff, probably about a 30-foot cliff, and the cap busted off and it was okay. So it's a very durable piece of material, but again, it weighs a lot. Now, just by itself it doesn't weigh a lot, but you start adding that weight together, it's gonna come up to quite a bit. First, look at the big three things when it comes in terms of ultralight backpacking or backpacking in general. So when backpackers go out and they start preparing, they look at the weight of three key items. They look at the weight of their backpack, their sleep system, and their tent. And those three generally make up the largest group, or the most weight of anything in their pack. So let's combine that principle before we actually dig into my pack with another thing. One of my mentors for outdoor bushcraft, woodcraft, camping, wilderness self-reliance is Dave Canterbury. And I've been watching him for, goodness, we used to have Dave watch parties at college. I mean, I've been watching him for probably almost a decade now. And he's the one that came up with these principles, so I don't want to claim any of these principles as far as what's going to be called the 5 or the 10 C's of survivability. We'll probably just go over the first 5 C's tonight, and then maybe later in another video we'll cover the full 10 C's. Now, the 5 C's of survivability, as Dave says, are honed in and they're comprised of elements that people who go out into the woods carry and have carried for hundreds and hundreds of years. You can trace it all the way back to Otzi the Iceman, all the way up to the long hunters of the 18th century. And you can also trace it through the early 20th century camping, and even now with modern bushcrafting. So those 5 C's of survivability are going to be a cutting tool, combustion. And those 5 C's of survivability are going to be a cutting tool, so a knife, anything to cut or process materials, wood, animals, game. You're going to have a combustion device, so something to produce fire, cover, something to protect you from the elements, a container, something to boil water in, or make stews in, or make wild medicine out of wild edibles out of. And lastly, you're going to have cordage. And all these things are very difficult or take a lot of skill or labor to make and manufacture off the wilderness. So if you say, oh, well, I'll just make cordage whenever I get out there. Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean it's the most practical thing to do. Oh, I'll find a stone knife. Yeah, okay, let's back it up here. What I imagine most of us are considering is putting together a pack that we can go out and we can either backpack with, or we can go on scouts with our weapons. And again, this comes back to we want as low bulk, low weight, and most multi-functionality as possible in this kit. A couple more disclaimers. Now, I have not finished putting this pack together. I do not have near the best materials that are in this, but one's pack is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. So don't be afraid to just get the gear that you can afford right now. Or what you can do is don't be afraid to get the gear that you can afford right now. Or save up so you can buy a better quality piece of gear later on down the road. All right, so let's talk about the first thing, cutting tools. So these two knives represent would probably be the most bushcrafty type of knives that I own. This is a $7 Old Hickory butcher knife that I bought from Ace Hardware 7 years ago. This has been the most useful knife I have ever had. It's high carbon steel, it's got a sharp edge, it's nice and thin so it's easy to sharpen, and yet springy and strong. I baton pretty stinging thick wood with this. It's a great knife. It's $7. I hardly spend anything on it. I do need to make a new sheath because the tip is sticking out and it's starting to cut through. But I actually used and still use this with my 18th century gear. Mora. Just get this knife. If you're looking for a good knife, this is a $15 knife. It's perfect. This is one of the perfect knives for the price point for outdoors activities. Now, you're not going to go all Rambo with this, but this is going to accomplish everything that you're going to need it to do in camp. You're going to be able to process firewood, you're going to be able to skin the game, skin the animal, you're going to be able to make shelters with this, even cutting down 2-inch trees you can do with this. It's about a $15 knife. This is, again, high carbon steel. The idea behind that is not only easier, I think it's easier to sharpen. I love high carbon steel. You can also drive sparks off the back with a rock or with something else that's harder than the steel itself. So again, that goes to multifunctionality. The sheaths, you could probably get a better sheath than this. I'm probably going to make a leather one or a Kydex one here pretty soon. All right, so another knife that I actually just got this knife, and I actually got it for my combat kit. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's right, I've been cutting apples with it. Gerber, which one is this? I think this is a strong arm. Seems to be a good knife. I bought it because I needed something that would function more as a knife I could keep on my war belt. I like it so far. I haven't done a lot of outdoor activities, but from what I've seen, this has been put through a lot of abuse. Good knife. Okay, now let's dig into the pack itself. Let's go into combustion. All right, so we've got a couple things here. We've got, first of all, a massive ferro rod. 1/2 inch by 6 inches. This will last forever. Don't have a striker on it right now. I need to put that on there. Lighters. I got 2 in here right now. Normally I carry one in my pocket, one in my pack. You're going to want to have a way to make sure fire. You want to make stinking sure that you'll be able to make fire, because in a cold environment, or if you fall in a body of water and you're wet and it's cold outside, even in the 50s, you're probably going to get hypothermia. I had a friend who I saw get wet, and it was probably in the mid-70s, and it was windy, and he was in the beginning stage of hypothermia. So knives, being able to cut firewood, make your tools, make fire, very important. Again, protecting ourselves from the elements, we have the cover element. So you can go with something like this. It's a tarp. This is by DD Hammocks. It's a good tarp, use it quite a bit. The only problem I have with this is when you get to camp, you've got to set it up. And there's one of the reasons you might want to go with a tarp is because it's ridiculously versatile. You can look up any video on YouTube about the 1,000,001 ways to set up a tarp. This one happens to be 9 foot by 9 foot. And so one of the bonuses to this is it's lightweight, it's low bulk, and it is extremely versatile. but I live here in Florida, and Florida means bugs. And I've camped in Florida plenty of times without protection for the bugs. It's not fun. So this is fantastic for colder weather, maybe even here in Florida for colder weather or places where there's not as many bugs. Or if you can just deal with the bugs and you're a real man. So I don't use this a lot right now. All right, so this is a new gear requirement. I just got this a few weeks ago. This is the Backwoods Bungalow by One Tigers, or however you pronounce the name. And this is a tent, and it's a little bit bulkier. It's a little bit heavier than I want. Look how small I can compress this. It weighs a little bit over 3 pounds, and compared to some ultralight options, it's about twice as heavy. But it's only 120 bucks, and this was an easy buy for me. I saw good reviews on it, and I have yet to test it out. This is basically an A-frame shaped tent. It has it's a single wall, but it has mosquito netting. It has the cover can actually fold up, and it can become basically what's called a baker style tent. So you have an area that you could work under, that you can sit under, even if it's a downpour. And then if you want to, if it's real heavy, you can zip that up and be completely sealed off from the elements. So this is what I'm going with right now, and probably in about 2 weeks I'm going to go and test this thing out. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is a container. Now, I'm probably going to get a titanium pot at some point, but this is, and a lot of this stuff you can get from Self-Reliance Outfitters. This included the water bottle too, a lot of the Moore knives, and a few of the other things in here. I met Dave. He's a great guy, great classes. I'd love to take one of his classes. Free advertisement for them. Love this pot. It's fantastic. I've actually used this pot more as an oven than I have for an actual pot. All right, so we have a stainless steel pot. It's nice and big. It's got locking jails. It's got butterfly handles on the back. Really multi-purpose. The way that I use it to bake in is I have a stainless steel pot that I stole from my mom's kitchen about 7 years ago. Or whenever, it wasn't that long ago. I stole from my mom's kitchen when I still lived at home years ago. And what you do is you put your bread in here, or whatever you're trying to cook. You can also get little grills to put in there too if you want to cook meat, or whatever you want to make, and stick it inside of the oven. And then you put the lid on, and you stick this in the fire. It's died down. Ideally, you want to do this around some coals. Embed some coals up around it. And you know what? This stinking works. It works really well. I'm not sure I would want this I would definitely want this in a more long-term solution now. For just like a recce pack, I don't know if I would want something quite this big, but I'm just showing what options there are out there, especially for the multifunctionality of these items. All right, so the next container I carry along with me all the time is this stainless steel cup or little pot. I added this bail on it just so I can hang it over fire, and I have done 90 to 95% of my cooking for day trips, backpacking, scouts in this container. And if you watch a lot of the ultralight backpacker guys, you'll notice that most of their stuff the stuff that they bring is this size or smaller. Again, super multifunctional. It can function as a cup. These actually originally come with a handle on it, but I didn't want them, so I just took them off. This can function as a cup. It can function as any number of things. I've actually also baked in this, although it doesn't work near as well. And the cool thing is that it nests inside of the water bottle. The cup nests inside of the water bottle. So that makes it really handy. And all these gear items are through Dave's store, Self-Reliance Outfitters. And again, for most of the stuff, you can actually get a lot of similar products that is in titanium, so you're going to get increased durability, less weight, but it's a lot more expensive. The titanium water bottles and the canteens are probably at least 3 to 4 times as expensive as that water bottle there. So go with what you can buy and what you want. The last C, the last of the 5 C's of survivability is cordage. Here I have what I guess what I consider what's the heart of my cordage in my kit right now. This is about a 35-foot piece of paracord, and this is my Ridgeline. Obviously it's cordage, so you can do any number of things with it, but my tent actually doesn't have any poles with it, so I actually hang it up with this. I also carry around hanks of paracord, bank line, and I have it all out in preset links, so that I don't have to be digging around in my pack just cut random pieces off. One thing I really like doing is to carry around a much smaller roll of bank line, and this stuff Again, this is one of those items that I've used for probably 80 to 90% of the stuff that I need cordage for. Generally, if I need a heavier set of cordage, I've already got a preset cut piece of heavier bank line or paracord. I know you can also get this. I got this at Academy, but Academy Sports and Outdoors, but they don't carry this stuff anymore, unfortunately. I've got probably about 5. This is about a full roll, but I've got several other smaller rolls lying around. And this will give you enough cordage to do quite a bit. And all right, so that does it for the 5 C's. And again, you don't have to carry all of this with you. And again, my pack right now is set up for bushcrafting. And I'm not set up entirely for going out and having it as light a weight as possible. So just keep that in mind, but I'm showing options here. If you want to carry all this stuff, go ahead. But then just know that you're going to be a lot more tired on down the road, and you're not going to have as much room to carry things like additional ammunition, medical supplies, or other types of tools. One thing I forgot to mention in the first category, cutting tools, is an axe. This is a Grandsford Brooks small forest axe. This has been my right hand in the woods for a long time. It's a fantastic axe. I love it. There are other good offerings out there. Council Tool has good offerings. I've actually talked with a guy who's one of the reps, and he told me why they're better, and I'm probably going to get a couple. But Grandsford Brooks, Holderverse Brooks, Council Tool, all Fiskars if you want something with that's a little bit of a lower cost with a synthetic handle. I prefer wood. All those are going to be fantastic options for you. Now you also might want to carry some sort of a saw, and unfortunately I don't have my saw here with me because I actually left it at my parents' house when I visited there in December for Christmas. So I actually have a long knife. It's about this long. That again, it's actually the big brother of this, except it's about this long. And it's obviously a lot thicker, and the dimensions are more proportionate. But here in Florida, I actually find that's a lot more useful than an axe. So again, remember that a lot of your environment is going to determine what gear you bring, what tools you use, what clothing you wear. Obviously in Florida, it's hot and it's wet and it's rainy, so we might want something like a rain jacket. This is actually one from Cabela's, and I bought this because it was going to function both in my ultralight kit as well as just a functional rain jacket. And during the rainy season, it works fantastic. You could also use a poncho. I'm probably going to buy the Helicon USGI poncho and kind of test around with that, because that's going to be more multifunctional. I'm going to be able to use it as a tarp, poncho, shelter, all sorts of things. But this is fantastic for right now. If you want something that's a little bit of a lower bulk and lower cost and much lighter weight option, the Smart water bottles are fantastic. They do get banged up a little bit easy, but they're like $2 and you get the nice water in them. So don't be afraid to throw them away and start over with something else. Start over with a new one whenever you're ready to move on. All right, so this is a dry bag, nice and heavy duty. And again, this is another container that I can use. I've used this for a dry bag. I've used it for a flotation device. I've used it for a water container. I've actually made a tripod, filled it with water, and hung it up, and had basically a water bucket in camp. So I love using this thing. It's a little bit thicker and heavier than some of the other offerings that are out there, but it's really multifunctional, so it's really hard for me to get out of my kit, even with my more ultralight mindset. Merino wool shirt, fantastic. I can put this on even under something like this, move around a little bit. I can actually be okay in relatively cold weather. As long as it's not like rainy or something, I'd probably be okay down to about freezing. But on a cold morning, it's nice to have. All right, now, sleeping bag. So this is, I cannot remember what this is called, but this is talked a lot about in budget backpacking videos on YouTube. And I have yet to test it out. It's a little bit on the small side for me, but that's okay. That means there's less air inside for me to have to warm up. This is actually a down sleeping bag, and as you can see, it's extremely lightweight, and it folds down. It comes with its own compression sack, and it folds down to about this big. All right, now another thing you're going to want to consider is your comfort in camp. If you don't get a good night's sleep during camp, while you're camping or when you're out in the woods, just recreationally, you're going to be absolutely miserable. I've slept on the ground plenty of times before. It's not fun. So guys, don't do it. Just don't do it. Get yourself a pad. And again, it doesn't have to be really expensive starting out. Again, this is just a $40 one that got good reviews on Amazon. And it hasn't got a hole in it yet. I haven't used it a lot. I had to put it to the test though, but still it remains to be said, get yourself a decent sleeping pad. It's gonna help a lot. Going along with that, get yourself a good sleeping pillow. Again, just like with the pad, this is gonna help tremendously. This is gonna be one of the comfort items that you're going to thank yourself ceaselessly for bringing. Again, I've slept a lot without a pillow on the trail. It's not fun. Unless you sleep without a pillow normally, in which case, then forget about it. But for the rest of us, pillows are really nice. And you might be thinking, well, you're a big sissy. Go ahead and sleep on the ground for even 2 or 3 nights when it's about 40 to 45 degrees outside. You're going to want this kind of stuff. And remember, a lot of these circumstances and scenarios that we're talking about here is we're at least potentially training to be in a hostile environment. And I think that you're going to want as good of a night's sleep as possible. That way, even if you're camping and backpacking, just recreationally, you're going to be able to get up the next day, be well rested, and hit the trail and be ready to make that next mile marker or your next land marker goal. All right, now the last thing I have in my dry bag is a SOL bivy bag. And my idea with this is that my sleep system could be somewhat modular. So if it wasn't too cold outside, if it was during the summer, maybe I could just get away with this. If it's a little bit colder, bring this. If it's down to freezing, I haven't tested it yet. I think it will though. Bring both of these things, and both of these things weigh less than 2 pounds. And with all of the stuff in here, it weighs easily less than 3 to 4 pounds. I haven't weighed it, but just from testing it, it's extremely lightweight. As you saw, it fit in that one bag, and this is the entire element to my sleep system. What other items might you want to bring? You might want to bring some lighting. That would probably be a good idea. I generally don't bring anything super bright or super powerful because my powerful lights are on my weapon. And if I need to blast something with some light, then I'll just blast it with that. This is the Goal Zero Micro Lantern, and this is what I have found this to be the smallest and most low bulk and the best mini lantern I've ever seen. I know there's a lot of options out there, but I really like this one. It's about 25 bucks, and I don't think for the price you can beat it. All right, this is a Nitecore headlamp, and what I like about this is it's very bright, it's rechargeable. Oh, the other one is rechargeable too. And it's got super low bulk, and it's decently bright. It's got 3 brightness settings on it, and one of the cool things is that whenever it's all folded up like this, there's a little plastic tab that folds over the on-off button and prevents it from turning on and off in your pack. And I've drained plenty of headlamps and flashlights from them coming on in my pack or my pocket. I just added a shock cord headband to it, and it's actually surprisingly comfortable. Again, lower bulk. Cut those ounces and grams where you can. I'm not perfect at that, but I really like this because it's extremely small. I can just carry this around in a pocket if I want to. Tent stakes, easy. Sharpening stones for my tools. This is just from a Lansky set that's got those guided angle rods. I just cannibalize it. Now I have 2 sets of a fine and a coarse. Fishing kit contained in here. I've got probably about a 15-foot piece of bank line wound around a fishing roll of braided fishing line. I think about 12 to 15 pounds. And I've cut the middle out so I can just set it down in this tin. I've got just a massive wad of hooks and button, and I've got a couple buttons in there and a few needles in here as well. So I've got a repair kit, I've got buttons, I've got line for fishing and for sewing. I've sewed up plenty of stuff with that braided fishing line. I've got a bobber. Given the right place, I could probably provide myself food with this. If you want to watch somebody like Zach Fowler on YouTube, he won one of the seasons of Alone, And he won that by fishing. And if you watch a lot of his videos, a lot of his food, where he gets a lot of his food is from the water and just through fishing. So don't discount fishing. Really great piece of self-reliance gear to have. A stove. I just got this MSR Pocket Rocket. I might actually leave this at home and get another one. That's a lot lighter weight. But this is what I have for right now. It's a tad on the heavy side for me right now, but it's what I have, so I'm going to use it for right now. Water purification. And with water purification, there's a lot to it. The best way is by boiling it. I've done that on camping trips before. We went on a canoe trip, and that's how I purified my water. It's not fun. You can do it in an emergency scenario, but if there are other options, I really recommend doing other things. I just got this, so I haven't tested it out. But again, I've heard good reviews on it. This is a Kanaka water bag, and you basically take this top piece off, you unfold it like a dry bag, and the mouth of it opens completely up, so you can just scoop the water out, and it fills up the bag. Then you can pop this bottom off, stick this sucker on the bottom. This is a HydroBlue VersaFlow filter. It's a little bit cheaper than the Sawyer offerings. Screw that on, and then you just squeeze. So it's like the Sawyer squeeze system, but it's a lot sturdier. I've had those bags bust, and since they don't have a big rear opening, it's really hard to get the water in them. The last thing we're going to talk about here is my pack, and there is a roll of heavy-duty bank line in the bottom. I completely forgot about heavy-duty bank line. Cool to have. I've already got this made up in a specific, already preset lengths though, so I don't necessarily have to carry around the whole thing. All right, so we have my pack here. This is obviously an Alice pack, and for years and years, I carry around a canvas pack I made when I was 20, and I just threw that away last night because it got a big tear in the bottom. I made it for 35 bucks, been all the way from here in Florida with me, all the way to Colorado. It was a fantastic bag, but really wasn't big enough for what I need now. All right, so we have an Alice pack. I don't need to go into anything about that, but I've got it on it's a backpack frame from probably the late 1980s or early 90s, and I bought the pack frame off of a dude on Craigslist. It had the pack attached to it. I didn't want the pack; it was crappy, so I took it off, threw it away, and it was just left with the pack frame. This is fantastic. I've only probably carried up to about 45 pounds in it. It's comfortable. I've just lashed the top part of the Alice pack onto the frame with paracord. Then obviously you can just loop it on with the straps on the bottom. So it seems to be a good system so far. In the future, I'm going to be upgrading something better. But sometimes it's just about getting what works at this time. I think that about covers it for right now and for tonight. I know there's a lot I left out. There's a lot I didn't cover. There's a lot that I probably just don't know. And I'd love to see what you guys have to say about all this. Please remember, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert. I don't have military experience, but this is just my perspective from a lot of time spent in the woods, from watching other people do activities in the woods, and learning from a lot of different people. And granted, a lot of it is from online learning, but hey, that's how we learn nowadays. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great evening, and thanks for watching.